Yo, fine scouts and intrepid internet travelers, welcome to my channel. I'm Josh, your binge buffoon, if you will have me. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the first season of Netflix's live-action adaptation of One Piece. And I know this is late, and probably no one cares at this point, especially about the thoughts of a normie, which is what I'm calling myself for the sake of this. Again, for those who watched my reactions, this review's coming weeks after I finished this first season. So my thoughts here won't be fresh, they'll be very broad. But at the end of my final reaction, I said I would do a review in another video. So here it is, better late than never. As someone once said many years ago, and now we all say, but it's really just a terrible excuse to procrastinate. As someone who had never seen the One Piece manga or anime, going into this series, I didn't really know what my expectations were. My standards are pretty high in general, especially when it comes to adaptations, or maybe I just have a really high opinion of myself. I think it's safe to say that anime has become so popular at this point that every manga, even the ones that aren't good, are being turned into anime. There's a sea of live-action adaptations on the horizon, which is only going to contribute to this problem we face in entertainment, which is the market being saturated with subpar shows. On top of that, the bar is set so low, or at least was, for anime adaptations that I wasn't sure if the word of mouth surrounding Netflix's One Piece was justified, because in order to succeed or be deemed better than every other live-action adaptation, you don't really have to accomplish much. But in short, why did I start that way? In short, this series won me over with its heart. It's super fun, and it does have quirk, of course, because it has to, given its roots, but it fully commits to the sincerity of it all. I'm sure some would even argue it overcommits. I don't feel that way, but I saw IGN gave it a 6, but numbered ratings aren't an accurate reflection of anything, really. Aimless ranting is. I certainly didn't expect this show to basically completely revolve around the idea of following your dreams. Then again, it is a pirate show, and being a pirate is all about freedom and living by your own set of rules, ignoring what other people tell you, which is why I wanted to be one as a child. I always had a problem with authority, and these molds were always forced to try and fit within. It wasn't because I actually wanted to be one within the confines of history, a pirate. I didn't want to commit any atrocities or crimes. I would have died immediately and gone straight to hell. But those two things that I just mentioned, and the connection between the two in this series, how piracy is used as a vehicle for this theme, which is the major theme, and then I think there's a subset of like camaraderie and friendship, family, all that, among other things. But these sort of dreams and aspirations that you have as a child, they're just something you feel, right? It's not about thinking, and that's why they're often ridiculous. But at the heart of them, there's something very real, which can either evolve into something very attainable, or you could spend the rest of your life trying to invent time travel so you can live out your days during the golden age of piracy in the 18th century. But even then, I'm not going to tell Doc Brown what to do, you know what I mean? And this is part of the reason I think One Piece is so great, what I've seen of it. Because much like the way people look at you like you're delusional or crazy for pursuing a seemingly unattainable goal, a cynical person within the world of One Piece would view Luffy as ridiculous. This kid in a straw hat who's going to be the king of the pirates, who's made of rubber. He's the perfect character placed at the epicenter of this theme, message, world, who then redefines every label or labels that other people attach to him and the people in his orbit. Because that's what, in my opinion, what perseverance is about. When someone tells you no, or explains why you don't fit the mold attached to whatever it is that you want, you reshape that mold, you break it, and then you inspire others to do the same, or they inspire you. You don't always have to be the guy, you just have to try. And that's why this message I keep talking about is attached to this story about camaraderie and friendship and social systems, society. The right type of those things, the kind that lifts you. I can understand how all of this could seem redundant as the show continuously hammers home, I suppose, just positivity. But I like that. I think it's important. I think that yes, you can should be shoved in your face as often as people tell you you're not good enough or you can't do that, which is commonplace. Life needs that equilibrium. That's why there's shows like One Piece. And then there's also shows like Black Mirror that just makes you feel terrible 75% of the time. Besides, the world of One Piece is an exaggerated reality, so I think Hallmark card things and platitudes are appropriate, especially when they are grounded by real world things like discrimination and racism. Although I'm not really one to talk about platitudes, because if I'm being completely honest, I often speak in platitudes. If you can't tell, I say them all day and I just don't care. I also consume way too many motivational clips, videos, TikToks, stuff like that, to the point where I hate my childhood friends. The ones that always talk about the past and think posting videos on YouTube where you're talking about One Piece is cringe. Luffy's that cringe friend you need. Except he's not cringe. He makes the Straw Hat seem badass as he helps people like Sanji escape. The feeling of safety, stability, and obligation to what we don't want to admit are anchors. In his case, his job and father figure. But I know Luffy isn't a hero or a role model because he doesn't claim to be. I know this because of the comments on past videos. So outside of what I believe to be the foundational message of this show, I just think the writing in general is really good. Which of course stems from the manga and anime with the help of Ichiro Oda. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. But the writing still deserves praise. By the way, I read a comment the other day that said Oda started writing One Piece when he was 20 years old. So at a point in his life when the themes I just talked about, leaving home and pursuing your dreams, surrounding yourself with the right people, building a crew, contextualizing your relationship with your family within what your life is now, what it's becoming. They were at the forefront of his life when he started creating this, which is why it feels so real, relatable, which is why not only every character feels like a piece, pun intended, of a puzzle here, but everything makes sense with the characters, their decisions. Everyone's had a real arc. Not everyone. I've heard other people say this as well. Usopp has a lot of growing to do. We didn't do much with him here compared to other characters, but I'm sure there's a lot to come from the spoilers that I've seen. We definitely need to strengthen his and Sanji's bond with the crew, because right now, Nami, Zoro, and Luffy are the most bonded. They feel like the heart and soul of the Straw Hat Pirates, but that's just because we spent the most time with them. Regardless, again, I took the characters seriously. None of it was cringe. It didn't feel like cosplay, even though sometimes the wardrobe could have easily come off that way. But they committed to it. Again, they committed to the sincerity of it all. The actors, especially. I've mentioned in my reactions how they seem perfect for these roles. And they feel like real people. Changes, of course, had to have been made. Because in anime and manga, characters often express themselves in over-the-top ways that just wouldn't translate to live action. It would seem absurd and there would be this disconnect there. But on the other hand, Mihawk and Luffy feel like straight-up anime characters in a lot of ways. Not just in the fight scenes and what they're able to do with their weaponry or bodies. Luffy has this childlike innocence, but he can also be very badass, while Mihawk has this presence. Like, I imagine Luffy's way more Luffy in the anime, to the point where maybe it's annoying, but I've never seen the anime, so I don't know if he is. But I can tell that his spirit is alive in this, for sure. And that's why this world works in live action, because the characters feel like what I imagine they were supposed to feel like, while at the same time being emotional and relatable, obviously. What else? And the music was incredible. The score of this series is easily one of my favorites of the year. The sets were perfect. The action was great, considering. I imagine it's going to be impossible to live up to the anime. There's just so much you can do in animation. The TikTok algorithm keeps presenting to me fight scenes from the anime that are just unbelievable and amazing. And there's no way they accomplish any of that in live action. But the action's not as important to me as character moments anyway. For example, when Luffy accepts Nami's help at the end of the penultimate episode, the moments leading up to battle were more of a thrill for me in some ways than the actual fight with Arlong and his gang. I know with adaptations it's tough because as a creator you're often distracted by trying to cater to long-term fans of the franchise and wanting to satisfy them, that it gets in the way of actually telling a good story within the medium you're working with. But then if you ignore fans that made the franchise something special in the first place, that's a mistake. Also, I think this show probably balanced that pretty good because I didn't feel one way or the other about it, even though I'm not familiar with the source material. People have said that Arlong's arc is a bit rushed. Much of anime and manga is a lot of filler, anime more so, and obviously sometimes that's nice, because it would have been nice to get a little more character development. I would have liked more of Zoro's backstory, more time on the ship, because it is an adventure, and I think the quiet moments help to make the crew feel stronger as a unit. But this didn't feel like filler at all, really. I think they just hit the beats they were supposed to, with enough development to satisfy. I will say this adaptation's a lot more mature than I expected. Like, honestly, I expected One Piece to be comparable to Dragon Ball in the beginning, perhaps getting more mature as you move forward. And I still think that's probably the case with the anime, but here they adjusted the tone at the beginning of the story. I want to reiterate that I understand that One Piece fans are very protective of this, because it means so much to them. Protective, let alone knowledgeable. And my interpretation and everything I'm saying in this video could be completely off base. I didn't even really think about all of the animal illusions being symbolic upon my first watch. But in conclusion, like a bad essay. I've never seen an anime adaptation like this. I've never seen a show like this in general. And I don't feel like nitpicking something with so much heart that I enjoyed so much. Not because I'm afraid of long-term fans. It definitely feels like an introduction to these characters and a tease of what this series, characters, and world is capable of. From East Blue to the Grand Line. We're clearly only scratching the surface of what the Straw Hat crew will face. We're at the beginning of a very long journey. I literally just kind of freaked out and thought my mic was off, and I just did this whole thing. I just ranted all this time and not even recorded my voice, which has happened before. Yeah, but we're at the beginning of a journey. You just have to convince yourself that your dreams are possible, and then it's time to go get it, whatever that means. For season 2, they're going to have a bigger budget, which I imagine means more episodes. It's going to look even better. This already looked good and was already great, so I'm very excited for what's to come, even though season 2 is going to, from what I've read, it's going to be a while. So I don't know if I should start watching the anime or not. I kind of don't want to spoil things for myself if I continue watching the live action like this as a normie on this channel, even though, like I said, it's going to be a while until season 2. Thank you to everyone who joined me watching season 1. I really enjoyed reading everyone's comments, becoming acquainted with your passion for this story and these characters. I will likely watch the first few episodes of the anime at least on this channel. Well, I'll be covering a lot more anime in general. What else? I called Helmipo, I think that's his name, spoiled brat for the entirety of my reaction to season 1, which is why I just said his name just now. Shout out 80 and Scott. And yes, the title of this video is just me shooting my shot at Emily Rudd. Because it's okay to dream. That's what I've been rambling on and on about here. Although I'll probably change the title once people start calling me a creep in the comments. I really just thought it was a funny thing to jot down as a title. It might not even be the title anymore. But also, big love to everyone who's bored enough to join me. Don't let anyone make your friends cry. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Drive me off this platform if you must. Otherwise, like, subscribe, dislike for cathartic reasons. Drink water, stay young, and remember, don't be an idiot. Be a buffoon. The kind of buffoon who, if anyone ever doubts you, you just smile, introduce yourself, and announce what you are going to be, like Luffy. And I just came up with that. Peace.